We worked for the Ambanis. We performed at the Jamnagar. We were also at the Mahakumbh. There is nowhere that we've not taken poetry.
Were people doubting your ability to be a talent manager?
No, I don't think that happened at all.
It was a very male-dominated sort of environment. How did you manage that?
They were never used to taking orders from a woman. What Tarashna means is carving and finding and having an eye to detail. I want to live by it. I want to have this in Tarashna. I think it defines me also. Even if I was in a mental breakdown or even I was sick, if I was heartbroken, I always remember I was still working. Nobody comes back to you. Nobody's waiting to hire you. Nobody's waiting. You have to stand up for yourself. So if someone's so passionate and interested in production or anything that they're doing in their life, show up for it. Show that you're interested.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Everyday Empires. I have the wonderful Parul Mundra here of Tarashna Talent Management. As with anyone, we want to start with sort of where was the genesis of your journey? How did you get into the industry? What was your thinking of how you're going to get into this wonderful industry you're in?
The one thing I knew was that I wanted to do events. So I found all the ways to come to Mumbai. That was the city where you usually would find live events happening. So I got myself enrolled in a college in Mumbai. College was my first step into events, but it was only like volunteering for big events. And I knew that I do want to do more than that. So after I did a few, say maybe 2 or 3, the word of mouth actually spread and I started doing a lot of freelance events. Now, in the curiosity, I saw that I was always asked to do like client servicing or hospitality. And I really wanted to know why not production. So I knew there was this company named Production Crew, which was doing like great. And I just knew there was no, somebody told me that they don't take girls. And so the company that I was working with, which was Rising Events, I would do a lot of events with them. I went back and I said, I wanted to do production. And they said, okay, why don't you start with soft production? And soft production is decor, linen, and stuff like that. So I did have a fair knowledge and they did give me the opportunity to do production at a basic level. And just one day I got a call from Production Crew asking me, would you do backstage for the live stage in a festival? And live stage is usually very complicated because it has a band. So that was my first event, Enchanted Valley. It used to happen in Ambi Valley. Then there was no going back. I got introduced to Production Crew. They loved me, if I may say. They loved me. And that was the day I stopped doing all the freelance events that I was doing. And I was constantly doing only production events. And soon after, I was hired in Production Crew.
Wow.
So,
and give us a flavor of some of the events you've done, because I heard Coldplay has been a big part of your career as well.
Coldplay has been like a breakthrough event for me. Like that event was a place where I actually checked my capabilities. I knew how capable I was because at Coldplay, I was injured. I was in Udaipur for another event and I met with an accident. So my neck was injured. I walked into the venue wearing, neck support. So I remember I asked myself, can Production Crew look for a replacement? Like, can Parul be replaced at that moment, such last minute? It's a week or a week and a half to go for the event, and this has happened. So I asked myself, I'm not going to miss this opportunity. I will go on the ground. I will do what I'm supposed to. And I was really agitated on the ground as well because physically I could not give in so much. I was sleeping at 3 a.m. I was waking up at 6 a.m. But the first event, I realized that tech riders, hospitality riders, heavy hospitality riders, because it was Coldplay. Before that, I've only done national. Before that, I've only managed artists backstage at a national stage. And that was international. I had Jay-Z, I had Coldplay, obviously, and I had Demi Lovato. Wow. The first time I saw hospitality riders of 12 pages.
Oh my gosh.
And we had a whole German hangar as their backstage, as their rooms. So earlier, I'm just dealing with vanity vans and maybe like an octagonal structure of a green room straight to a German hangar. And we are building everything from inside, from sourcing everything they want as per the riders, and the food requirements are also very specific.
You mentioned a few things in terms of certain companies not hiring girls, or sort of perhaps being in a position where it was a very male dominated sort of environment. How did you manage that?
Um, One was curiosity
Mm,
that I had. I think I would always need answers.
mm,
It was just questioning first why I couldn't do a certain job or why couldn't I do something in particular. However, lucky for me, I got into production
mm,
and I did not have to rush into it, chase this industry because I knew what I wanted.
yeah.
But I do feel there is a doubt. I mean, it's not about women being not involved in something. They're not excluded,
Mm,
but usually people doubt it. It's hesitant. Women have to prove themselves in a certain way. I mean, equality for that matter
mm,
is something which is still has to evolve, I feel. So it was never that I was excluded out of something, but always had felt like you had to prove yourself a little bit more than the others,
yeah.
right? And that's also with production.
Why did that doubt exist? What was it about the role that people went, maybe we shouldn't have
Hmm.
a woman do this role, we should have a man do this role?
For example, the first question that would be asked to me
Mm,
was, can you stay late at
okay.
night? I
Mm,
was an independent girl. I was staying in a city.
mm,
I did not have to go back home. But there were restrictions on people.
mm.
There were restriction on girls who would stay with families, or if families were not really okay with the career they the career that they have pursued for themselves.
Mm,
These are the restrictions that women genuinely face.
yeah.
The fact that women are in all the industries right now is by itself such a win-win,
Mm,
right?
mm,
It's not always about who's getting recognized, but like the change will actually happen when you see more girls
yes.
in rooms like this. Obviously, men can stay longer,
Mm,
they can do night shifts. Production is usually a hard environment. You're on ground, you're in the sun.
mm,
Not always do we have the perfect hygiene around, and girls do require that. I was in Lavasa for a festival,
okay.
and I remember the hotel was 18 kilometers away,
Wow.
and we were doing production in the middle of nowhere. And if I had to use the restroom, I would either go, I mean, if I had to have the choice, go in the wild or go 18 kilometers away.
Mm.
So I had to plan myself and have that buffer time.
Are you seeing there being change now? Is there a little bit more of a thought about how to make the working environment a bit more female friendly? Are you seeing things change since you were last in it all those years ago?
100%.
Okay, that's
Because
good.
when I was in production crew,
Mm,
I was always at backstage
mm,
alone. Now, there's a time that I started interviewing more women. When we also grew our work and when we had multiple festivals or concerts going at the same time, I would have, you know, more Paruls with me now. From being the only one at backstage, now I had a team of girls. So I think that's what changed in production crew also. That's the initiative I took.
mm,
I wanted more girls around. And it's always better. You feel so much more comfortable when you have
mm,
more girls. I mean, it should always be an equal environment, right? I saw so many young talents in production. Like these girls they had the same energy. Like, I was so happy with the team we had back then
mm.
in production crew, to name a few, like Latika Manali. Like these girls were exactly the sort of girls I was looking for. So I knew there were girls like me, and that really made me aware that there are so many girls who want to do production.
Mm.
And I was happy that I could, even if there was a little change that I could do at that point, I was happy I could build a team. Even kudos to production crew for
Absolutely.
from being known as the company who do not hire girls, and now there are girls in production crew. I
Mm.
mean, that change is there definitely.
I think change can also happen quite quickly because once you've got a Parul who's building a team, then you have another one, or members of your team will go off into other companies and do similar things and start to change the culture a little bit. And then quickly, if you had a team of 10, if they're all going to 10 different places, then that's
Yes.
that's potential change across
Yes.
the industry.
That's exactly what the girls felt. They felt that production was only a male's job to do. And that's why nobody really, came up for it. And now when they would see me, I'm also active, very active socially.
Mm,
So I'm sure when people saw me post and I was at every concert. So live events is something which is the talk of the town, right? So I was doing almost every concert, every live event. And I saw girls texting me, DMing me that what's the way to get into production. And every girl that I found who had some interest, I would say, why don't you let's talk. Let's do something.
If someone wanted to get into the industry now, into
Mm-hmm.
into the production world, what would be your advice?
What would be my advice? Make sure the people you're working with are generous enough.
Mm.
I mean, equality is not about sameness. Like, we don't want sympathy, but women just want trust and access. For example, if you are at a remote situation, they would also be considerate that you are a woman. And these are some things that they would also have to take measures if they are working with women in production, because you don't want to work with somebody you can't align with. It's not hard otherwise. Do your homework. It's a male dominated industry. So know your things well.
I think what you're saying, and I think is a very fair point, is that it's not necessarily, you don't want to have special treatment in the sense of get access
Yeah.
over someone else because you're a woman. It's about providing a level playing field for everyone, so that when you are applying for the production side of a job, that you have the equal weighting. All these other social elements are not, or at least discussed
Yes.
rather than assumed. Is that broadly right? I want to make sure that if someone's understanding how do we get more women into an industry, it's not about creating, an unfair advantage. It's about creating a level playing field. And what does that truly mean?
I mean, I also feel that not everything is gender based, not every setback is gender based. So it's important to know that if there was a no, that's not discrimination as well. You should also understand that there was timing involved. There might have been, like true capabilities at that point, right? So that really matters. So not every setback is gender based. So that's something I would like to tell the other side as well.
Yeah. And I think it's important to recognize that your growth has come off the back of your effort and your talent and your hard work. It's got nothing to do with anything else. So if someone were to try to get to where you got to back in 2021, doing all these amazing events and working with Coldplay and Jay-Z and all these amazing crews and of course artists, then you need to be at a certain level. That is the minimum requirement.
Yeah.
And so um, hustling and getting there is something no one should be afraid of if they want to obtain that.
I think being consistent also. When I was younger, I was always into survival mode. So for me, I didn't have a lot of family distractions. I didn't have where people would go out for holidays, they'll do that. Like, I felt like even if I was in a mental breakdown or even I was sick
neck almost
condition,
broken.
yeah, whatever I was doing in life,
Yeah.
if I was heartbroken, I always remember I was still working.
Yeah.
So consistency obviously matters. It's simple. You go from point A to point B, the result is going to happen. It's just simple maths. So if you're consistent in a specific field, you will expertise at what point. I've seen people, they're doing something, then they're on a break for 6 months and 7 months, and then they want to come back to the industry. No, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
People won't recognize you the same. They would not, you have to show up. So why do they say you always have to be at a networking event? Because you're out of mind, you're out of sight, you're out of mind.
Yeah. No,
It's
that makes sense.
important to keep telling people, this is where I am, this is what I'm doing. You do something, it's out there. So yeah, it's a chain. It's also like nobody comes back to you. Nobody's waiting to hire you. Nobody's waiting. You have to stand up for yourself. So if someone's so passionate and interested in production or anything that they're doing in their life, show up for it. Show that you're interested. I could possibly be recognized because they always found me being the curious one, right? That's important. When you go on ground and on venues, ask questions. It's just so small, but it's so necessary. Who was the vendor? There were times that you would come back from an event and you don't know who was the vendor, the basic vendors. That's what production is all about, networking, knowing the vendors. So
Absolutely.
if you don't know them personally, if you don't know how this was built and who built it, what is production otherwise?
Yeah. What I always say to people, young people, especially as they're trying to come through, because a lot of people go, "Oh, I don't want to bother you with questions because you're so busy." Well, of course, they're busy, but the one thing certainly I love to do is to answer questions, because then I know that they're learning, and obviously I want to share what I've learned as well. I want to test my own understanding, and things might have changed as well. So especially in the accounting world, and rules change literally every year. We have to keep up with things. So if people are asking me questions, not just clients, but younger members of my team, I love it. And so often when I'm answering a question like an office environment, someone else were over here, but oh, I didn't know that. And they're like 2 or 3 years their senior. And you go, okay, great. We'll join the conversation and let's talk about it. So I think it's to any young person listening, don't be worried about asking questions because your seniors are more than happy or should be more than happy
More
to
than,
answer
they always say that the actual superpower is not showing them what you are good at, it's showing what they're good at,
them.
right? So even if they come up with problems, I will tell them that this is what you are good at
Mm.
and this is what exactly you should do. And you never know what comes out from where, so nobody should be hesitant about asking, because it's okay if you weren't great at that, I'm sure you're good at maybe something else.
Signs
I
of a
look,
great leader.
yeah.
So we're sitting in 2021.
Okay.
Live COVID has knocked the world for six. Your live events are obviously not happening.
Yeah.
And you must have been sitting at home going, what the hell should I do with my life? So this is where I presume the seeds of Tarashna were kind of sort of being planted and sort of blooming. So walk me through that, sort of the mindset you were in at that time, and how did you come up with sort of your next amazing journey?
So Tarashna wasn't intentional. Like
Mm.
Tarashna did not come out of a business idea. It came out very naturally. When obviously live events weren't happening, and I was sitting and thinking, what am I supposed to do? Because so I thought to myself, what would I do? Because weddings is something that's happening, corporate events is something that's happening. So I went back to do a freelance event after like what, 7 years or 6 years after being in production crew.
Wow.
And it felt really weird to do freelance again. And I saw an artist walk in, and besides every other artist who were coming in with the managers and everything, I found him. He was alone, and I was like, "Where's your manager?" And he said, "I don't have one." And I saw him at the sound check. Amazing person,
Mm.
amazing talent, very intelligent artist.
Mm.
And I said, "You know what? You're such a great talent. You do need a manager." And the idea was not that I would be your manager. I really wanted him to get one. But during the next 2 months of the journey of finding him a manager, I told him, you know what, I'll become the manager that you need because you're so great. And that's how overnight I decided that I would be a manager. And I
And
changed my career completely.
wow, and I'm sure even then you probably weren't thinking I'm going to run a big talent management agency. You were just thinking I'll help this guy
Yeah.
because he deserves it. From
Yes.
a sort of karmic worldly perspective, his talent should be, global.
Recognized and protected. Also, this was always in me. I would
Mm.
always naturally try to help all my underrepresented talent, like, artists or friends around, because I remember I was very closely working with the dancing community.
Mm.
I always seen them being not respected. Like there was always this gap of how they should be paid and what they were actually getting, or even basic hospitality. So I would always see them struggle. The one thing I noticed was struggle. And because I was already I was already dealing with such great artists, big artists, and I've closely worked with them, I already knew the back end. So I would very naturally, very organically tell them, why don't you give my number? Because I didn't want to see
Yeah.
my friends struggle. I would really, why don't you give my number? Like, I'll speak for you. So I remember it came out very naturally by helping others.
It's quite clear to see your production sort of management skill set being so useful to artists, helping them through their own journey, helping them perform. And that's probably quite rare for many. I don't know many talent management agencies that have any level of experience in the production side within the same person. Obviously, within
Yeah.
the same agency, perhaps. But you can sit there and honestly look these artists in the eye and say,
Yes.
I know what's going to happen because I did that damn job for so many years. This is what you should be doing. This is how you should be doing it. Don't feel nervous because, we've managed this and we've managed that. So do you see that crossover in your skill set that you built up in your earlier career into Tarashna? And was it something that were you consciously sort of thought about, or was it just like, well, I have this experience, I'll leverage that in my work?
100%. I feel that when I started doing artist management
Mm.
is when I realized that how naturally it flew in within,
Mm.
because I was always on ground doing what I wanted to do. And also, I already knew the industry.
Mm.
I only found myself bumping into people I knew. And, there was always a crossover. People telling me that this is why the delay is happening. or this is why the problem is. And India is not a very systematic space to work in. So every time someone walked in with a problem, I always had an answer saying that I know this is not happening because of this. And, however, you can just tell me if you're not prepared. Please don't tell me there's a delay this way or a technical delay, because if you would have started at a particular time, it would finish anyway. Howsoever, that definitely worked in my favor, and my artist could see that value. And I think that was something that was also a game changer for me. I didn't know how both the worlds would connect, but they actually worked in my favor.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note that your general sort of name within the industry as a production manager was carrying over into whatever Parul does. Generally, it's probably going to be of a good standard because you're associated with that. So I
Yeah.
imagine if someone came across you and knew you as a production manager, but now you're in talent management, they go, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Did you see that, or were people doubting your ability to be a talent manager?
No, I don't think that happened at all. Because one, when I was doing production, I think I was well recognized. People trusted me for my job and what I would do. Like I've always been a hard worker, and I didn't see that hesitation or doubt. In production days, the only hesitation or doubt, if ever somebody has given me, would be laborers or the people, because they were never used to taking orders from a woman. That's the first layer of hesitation or doubt that I had to break, because nobody was taking authority like that. When someone walks in and tells them what to do, and that's a woman, they'll be like, oh. And soon enough, when you show them what you're capable of, that was completely gone. But back again in artist management, I've only seen people feel happy for me, that, oh, she was doing this. And I've only seen people be excited.
Well, it
So
sounds like you have great people around you,
I
because
do. I do.
it's such a common thing where people start something different, or they start a business, or they pivot. I've had so many clients come through who'll be like, my parents don't back me, my siblings don't care, my even my partner doesn't even back me. I'm here because I have a sheer determination to do this. And so often doubt is like an energy fuel, because I'm going to prove these guys wrong. On the other hand, all of them would wish that they had a support network, especially from an emotional perspective. So it sounds like you had great people around you. Was that because you focus on having positive, great people around you, or was it just so happened?
So I'll also tell you, after I moved from production to artist management, is when I also understood the sort of support I had. Because I just saw people walking up to me and saying, Parul, if you need anything, if you need more mentorship, if you need any guidance, I am there for you. All the people that I've ever worked with, maybe my mentors, because at that point they were founders and CEOs of certain companies. And one thing was that I obviously was attending more networking events. I was actively representing Tarashna. So when I was there representing my own company, I could see that change. And then that was the moment I realized how many people are with me. And that was a really beautiful feeling, because, and it also speaks that you really do have to prove yourself somewhere, right? To get that from people. And the ones that are not happy with the growth, or, and I just eliminate. If I feel someone's not happy with my growth, the energy is not matching, I just eliminate. I am not at a position or to have that sort of energy in my life.
Yeah.
It's very important. It's Entrepreneurship is not simple. You have to give it your all. So when I actually built Tarashna and officially had Tarashna registered, I knew things were getting serious. And it's easy to open a company, but to upscale is a challenge. To upscale and constantly, because now you've entered a world with a lot of competition. Earlier I was in competition to anybody, or it was easy to live, you're a personal
Yeah.
manager. But as the moment you enter, you have to constantly upscale yourself to be relevant in the industry. And I think that's challenging, and that's something very important.
Absolutely. I want to go back slightly to a topic you mentioned around eliminating people who are sort of not good for you or sort of contribute to your positive sort of growth. How do you do that?
I would not give up on somebody. Like,
Okay.
I would not stop cheering for them. But I know when I've burnt out cheering for them, or when I've reached saturation, I would never stop being a good human.
Mm.
I would never stop that. Even to the bad people, I would do my karma right. I would try to reach out. I would ask them if there's something wrong in their life. I would do my bit.
Mm.
And even after that, if I understand that they're just off, and I would just give them like pure silence and just live my life. I don't have to confront it.
Mm.
I don't have to tell anybody why, explain, or hear, because actions speak louder than words,
Mm.
right? And if I don't see the effort, I know that's true. I truly trust my gut for that. And then I walk out in silence, or I'm just present, but I know I'm only present on the top level and not completely with the depth where I would actually give in for somebody. So that's my way of being there, being present,
Mm.
giving. And when I know there's a saturation for myself, I slowly take an exit.
Wise words, Paul. Now, so Tarashna was founded in 2021, roughly
2022.
2022.
Yeah, ending
Ending.
right in the
Perfect.
yeah.
So in the last, say, 3.5 to 4 years or so, I think give people a flavor of the amazing journey. And I want you to big yourself up, and I want you to tell us about the award that you won as well.
Oh, that's so difficult to do.
That's why I'm here, to help.
The first award I got or was recognized for was the Guiding Star. I was nominated by production crew, being in the company for Power Women. The two categories that I was nominated for was Solopreneur of the Year and Events in Change. And I won for Events in Change.
Wow.
Recently, last year, I've been given the 35 under 35 with E.T. Panache.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. How did it feel when your name was announced and you got the award?
It's good to have recognition. I mean, you love it because when I was recognized for the Guiding Star, that made me feel belonged in a company. I knew I was doing my bit right, or when production crew would nominate me for this award. And obviously, it feels nice. The second time when I won for changes in events, that was a true. I mean, I obviously felt amazing for that because that was for Tarashna. That was for my own company. Again, I have a long journey to go with Tarashna, but the change that we bought in the market with storytelling or artist, like I truly take credit for where poetry is at the moment in terms of commercials. I mean, there's so many people doing poetry. I mean, way before I was doing, they're managing artists who have been doing storytelling. There's so many people. But the commercial change that we bought in the industry, the upscale, that's lovely. And this is where I say the experience did matter because the clients that I had, all the wedding clients can trust me with Nayab. Having a storyteller poet on a wedding is nobody really thought about it, but it works so beautifully because there's nobody who does not resonate with emotions.
We've asked you this question sort of later in the show because I'm hoping the audience would resonate. I mean, I certainly do. With all the things that you said up till date, that clearly, guiding women, and we've just spent, all that time understanding how you were bringing women into the workplace. Of course, you deserve that award, and all the other elements as well. So it's one of those where I want people to understand that the award is just the validation,
Yes.
which is nice, not needed, but it's nice.
It's not the benchmark. Yeah.
But your journey is what actually makes that award valid.
A lot of people think that, oh, nominating for this is not important. I don't know if they feel that it's cool to not nominate and just keep doing their work. I've seen people have opinions about this. But I feel that while you're an entrepreneur, you're so busy doing your work, how would anybody recognize your work? If you're not standing up for yourself, who will otherwise? So why is it not important to constantly keep telling this is what I've worked for? This is my journey. You're not lying, you're not making up
Absolutely.
things. So if you are not going to stand up for yourself, someone else will stand up for themselves and then you would say, oh my God, I'm left behind. So recognition is not important, but it's not the benchmark for sure, but it does add value to your work and it does add value to where you are in the industry.
I think it's a very fair point because as an entrepreneur, by default, you have to be out there. You can't be a silent CEO. it's very difficult. You know, a silent founder, it's very difficult
And
because
some people also find it difficult to do it. And I can just empathize with them, for that. But you have to step out of your comfort zone and show up.
I want to learn a little bit more about Tarashna now because it's such an amazing talent agency. You've built it over the last 3.5 years or so. It's your baby. You're the founder. So I want to learn a little bit about Tarashna in terms of how many clients have you got? You know, do you have any specific specialisms? You know, give people that have got, for some reason, don't have any clue about Tarashna, give them the sort of flavor of who you are and what you've achieved to date.
Okay. So in the past 3 years or something, we've done over 500 shows, I guess, with Nayab and with certain artists, all the artists that I have. This is including our own IPs as well. Rajkumari, which is Nayab, is beautifully made. And at the start of Tarashna, we already had something that we were working on, where we were touring with. So that was amazing. And we're going to have the third tour for Rajkumari.
Oh,
And
wow.
touch wood, that's going to be the biggest poetry show in the country. With clients, again, I think we've hit thousands of clients now. But I have some really great, I think our clientele is really nice, more niche. There's nobody that we've not worked with. We've worked for the Ambanis, we've performed at the Jamnagar, we're there with EOs, YPOs, some really interesting entrepreneur communities that we work for. We were also at the Mahakumbh. There is nowhere that we've not taken poetry.
Wow.
I feel like it's a similar journey that I had with my production. The first year was more of knowing every sort of artist, working with everybody. Then we also found our niche. Right now, Tarashna is somebody you can trust with storytelling and poetry. We have great artists like Nayab Midha, Nidhi Narwal, Shachi Pathak, Kenashri. So all these people, I mean, after Nayab, is it right to say after Nayab? I'm not sure. All these people are the right people who are thriving in their journeys. They're great storytellers, they're great poets, and I'm there to back them up and take them to the next level. Also, with a lot of independent artists, Arjun is somebody who's been with Tarashna from the start, and he's a beautiful artist. So I'm also trying to get this independent space of musicians in Tarashna. I mean, this is my personal journey. I have more of them with me. Akash is somebody who's just recently joined Tarashna. What Tarashna means is carving and finding and having an eye to detail. I want to live by it. I think I want to have this in Tarashna, the foundations of Tarashna, by the means how naturally and organically the journeys I've had was this. And I want to stick by it because I think it defines me also. And it's very important that I align with what I give in the industry. So I want to find talents that I know I can make. It's very important when you see, when people see short term in themselves, but you're someone who are looking for long term. And to make that happen in real is the real talent.
Oh, absolutely. And it's one of those where we were talking earlier about sort of the growth of the talent manager alongside the artist.
Yes.
And you can see that with
Yes.
Tarashna, with your own career, because you can see that you have grown as much as or as well as the other artists. And maybe the artists have millions of followers and all this kind of verifiable engagement, but you have thousands of clients. You know, you have a great team, no doubt. You're building your own journey and your own name and your own recognition as well. So it's been amazing to see you grow with the artists so that you can continue to represent some amazing people.
Right after Spoken Fest, one of my artists told me, when people see you, she's like, you look like a brand. You look like a walking, talking brand, because the way when you meet people, the way you speak for your artist, the way you represent them. And I personally feel that's something different that I sort of have, about me. Like I really manage somebody with my whole heart. Whenever I'm meeting somebody, I'm like talking about my artist with my, like, every opportunity. It's so important to find the right opportunity when you meet people, because that these are the places you're making business. So that's something how I personally look into every person and find the right fit, the right platform.
If someone wants to be represented by Darashna, by you, by your team, what do you look for?
If I may say, there is no poet or writer in the country that is not DM'd Tarashna. or has not DM'd me personally.
Mm.
But there's only a limit to how many storytellers I can have on my roster. So I definitely look for somebody with a great personality, someone who's confident. It doesn't matter if they have a lot of followers. For me, that really doesn't matter. They can be anywhere in their careers, they can be anywhere in their journey. I should feel that, one, you're dedicated to your talent, you're dedicated to your art, because I don't want to be invested in somebody who's going to give up in 3 months, or who's going to give up in 6 months or a year. Someone who's constant, someone who's consistent, and they understand their art well.
So if anyone wants to DM you after this show airs, they need to show you some uniqueness and
Yeah,
something to capture your eye.
yeah, they should stand out. Or at least they should be good at where they are in their, in that particular. Sometimes people come to me, and this is a very big misunderstanding that people have. They think that some management is going to step in and something's going to change overnight. No. You're always going to do the work. As I mentioned before, nobody builds an artist. I will always build the environment around your art. I will help you. I'll build your ecosystem around it. But you have to put in the effort. You have to show up for yourself. So I can't manage you if you're not at the stage of being managed. I always say this: somebody should look for a management when they are somewhere where they can't handle it by themselves. You should also know all the aspects of your own work and job, right? Then only somebody can step into it, tell you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. I always come in and evaluate where the artist is. I will ask them, what are the challenges that you've been facing? What is the problem that you have around your clients? And I actually sit around and take that study to know what exactly I have to do with this person and what are the areas of gap that I have to fill.
So guys, if you wanna be represented by Tarashna, there you go. You've got the blueprint from the lady herself. We'll do a quick shout out to Nayab because she was a wonderful guest on our show back end of last year. And I'm very grateful to you for allowing a bit of time for us to spend with her. She's been crucial to well, you've both been crucial to each other's growth.
Yes.
So just a quick shout out to Naib for being so wonderful.
Yes.
Now we come to the final sort of question of the show where we ask every guest this, and I'm hoping you've had a little bit of time to prepare. And that question is, if your 18-year-old self had a conversation with your 80-year-old self, what would that conversation be about?
Interesting question. I think I will. I think my 18-year-old self would not be scared to confess that it's that she was chasing security instead of speed. Most of the times you see the younger generations or people are actually chasing visibility. They're chasing the speed and the growth, but though the actual growth is a very slow and steady growth. Also, like I mentioned, stability and security, because I feel the 18-year-old Parul was looking for security. I didn't have the luxury to stop and experiment a lot, or I would have done a lot of things. So do not lose your passion in the journey.
Amazing. Paul, thank you so
Are
much for your
you?
time. I appreciate you. And I'm really looking forward to when this episode airs because I think you've spoken so wonderfully about talent management, about your own journey, and people that want to get into the industry. And I'm hoping, or I know a lot of people will take a lot of value from the conversation today. So I'm very grateful for your time and I
Thank
appreciate you.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.